All right, everybody. Welcome. Despite tech issues, we're going to make this happen because, yeah, that's what we do. We overcome obstacles and work through it. So I'm excited to have you all here with me today. I'm Charity. I'll share a little bit more about myself a little bit later. But for you who are here, would love to make sure that your name is on your screen or in the chat so we can say hey to you. And we will go from there. We're going to start with a time of prayer because we can do that. And that's important. So, let's just take a moment to pray. Loving God, we give you thanks for who you are, for your grace, your mercy, and your love toward us, for the ways that you show up, and a lot of times the ways that you use other people to show us your love and grace. Thank you, God. As we journey together in these next moments, we pray that those things that we need would be made clear. And those things we don't need right now, we can tuck away. And if it's something that isn't relevant for now, we can just not have it take up room or space in us so that we can focus on that which we need in this season. So just give you thanks. And I give you thanks for every person that's here, the ministry that they do, for the people with whom they get to do that ministry. I give you thanks. It's in Jesus' name we pray, and we offer this time to you to have your way in this moment. Amen. All right. Well, friends, definitely go ahead and say hey in the chat, say hello, drop your name, and all that good stuff. We would love to just be in communication and conversation. I'm going to be working through the slide deck in this way because of some of the issues I had earlier. So you'll get a chance to see some things pop up on the side. We'll just leave it there for now. But just pay attention to the main slide that we have. So you all are in the Best Ministry Team Start Here. Three things you need to team. I'm really, really excited. I've done some research and conversations with pastors, and I am learning that one of the most important things people need is some help. Somebody say help. And so because people need help, it means that we need to start building out and equipping the people that are around us in ministry for the work of the ministry. So maybe you know what this is like. If you see me looking down, I have my notes here, so that's what I'm doing. Maybe you can identify with just being tired, sick and tired of being sick and tired, just tired and maybe exhausted a little in ministry right now. In 2021, nearly 40% of pastors experienced burnout and were contemplating quitting ministry. That we've been through a lot in the last 2 years, and on this other side of it, we get to sort of decide how do we want to do it now going forward. And so I hope you can start looking to the future trajectory, not just what it has been, but how would you like to create it to be. Can you identify with people holding positions but not really doing any work? Those folks who just get on teams and committees, and sometimes it's about status, but they ain't getting nothing done. A lot of times people get in those positions, unfortunately, and they are just sharing what they think, want to just bend your ear about what could and should be, instead of really actively working in the ministry, implementing and being an asset in that way. Have you ever heard anybody say, I thought we hired you to do that? That idea where the pastor is the hired help or the hired hand, and they look to the pastor to do all the things. So, if any of these sound familiar, if you can identify with any of that, I know what it's been like. I've experienced those things as well, and you're in the right place because that means to me that you want to be a person who is in ministry with your people, not for your people, right? To be in ministry with the people of God that God has blessed you to have, not for them. So the goal today is to get off the struggle bus, and we have all been on it in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So you're in the right place today, and it's my goal. My goal is to help you begin identifying, putting together an outline to get your team started, so that the vision that God has blessed you with, that it can actually come to pass with the help of other folks. Because I know that you don't want to just have a call; you want to live that call out. You want to do what you believe God has gifted you to do, and you want to honor God with your ministry. And so that is what we're going to be working toward today. So we want to root ourselves, of course, as we started in prayer and then also in scripture. Ephesians 4 says, and he gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the shepherds, and teachers to equip the saints for the work of ministry, for building up the body of Christ. And so part of who we are as if you're clergy or lay, part of our role, our gifting, is to equip the saints, is to equip the other folks for the work of the ministry. And too often that work lands on the pastor's shoulders, especially depending on how small that congregation is. And I'm going to talk specifically a little bit later about solo pastors, right? People who are the main pastor person in a place, who may or may not have an administrator and all these other people to kind of come alongside. And so it's really important that we look to see how we might be equipping the rest of the saints. So I want to encourage you to stay here. I'm glad that you showed up today. I'm encourage you to stay put. At the end, I'm going to be offering up a couple of bonuses that you'll get a chance to take advantage of, and I hope that you do as you begin building your team. But really, the big purpose of today is to get you some gems that you can use right now as you start building out your ministry teams. So if you're down for that, say hey now. You can put that in the chat. Amen. I hear you, Tracy. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. I'll be checking the chat every once in a while, see how we doing. Okay, friends. So you're in the right place. Here's the deal. Who is in the room? Right before I got on here, I listened to my Leslie Odom because I'm a big Hamilton fan and I love Leslie Odom. I like him actually with locks, but the Hamilton Odom works too. But to get the most out of today, here's just what I want to invite you to do in this time that we have together. Just be open, y'all. Ministry can be a very a place where we can constrict, right? We can just kind of pull back. And so I get that. I feel that. I have moments where that feels like it is the safest way to go. But you're here. You came here for a purpose. And so I want to invite you to be open, to get out of your own way. Sometimes we go into workshop type things and we're like, you're going to have to convince me. Like, okay, maybe, but like what you came here because you did need something and you're open to being, to hearing something perhaps new or practicing how to get your team in place. So don't get in your own way with our own cynicism, which I think pastors, we all have that. Well, the longer we're in ministry, I think it's one of those vices that we have to work at. Perfection is your enemy, progress is your friend. This is the beginning, right? This is perhaps the start of putting a team together. It doesn't have to be perfect today when you get off this call, but if you have some bits and pieces that you can begin using, that is progress, and that counts, and that matters, and that's to be celebrated, and it is success in and of itself. Engage in this time together, take notes, use this as a springboard to be able to do the next steps that you'll be invited to do. And that I see that the people who are here are people who value learning and growing. And so if you are in the room and you're here and you're bringing the best of who you are, I want to just invite you to say, I'm here in the chat. So if you really here, the best of you is here, ready to rock and roll, to do what you believe God has gifted you and called you to do. Want to just put I'm here in the chat. All right. So a little bit about who I am as we do this work. I know some of you, and some of you I get to continue to learn and grow with. But I've been in ministry more than 23 years, and a lot of times, that's where we start. I hear all the places that I've served and all the things, but here are my pictures of me and my two little boys, Levi and Gabriel. They are my boy joys. And my first ministry is to them. And so while I love what I get to do for the church, I'm a elder in the United Methodist Church. They are my first ministry. And this first picture is just my favorite picture of us as a family. I think it's one of the first pictures I ever gotten of us as a family. And then this one is just a couple last Sunday, the fun run that the boys did. And I'm still amazed that in about one more head, they will be as tall as me. And I'm not ready for it. I'm not ready at all. I knew I was short, but dang, they are are like, and they're 9 and 11. They the same height. It's crazy. I don't even know what to do with this. So that's my mama heart. Um, and so I've been in ministry in a lot of different capacities. One of the things that I've gotten to see as a pattern over time is that when I leave a ministry setting, I'm in a United Methodist Church, which means we go to different places for a certain amount of time. Is that I leave a little more church than when I arrived, right? And so sometimes that looks like that looks in a wide way, and that means that might be more people there, right? There's a numerical sort of space, leaving more church when I arrived. The other times it can be in a deep way, right? So that means there are more leaders. There are people who can articulate a little bit more of who they are and what God has gifted them to do and or be. They maybe have a little more courage and boldness in ministry as a layperson. Some people might accept calls to ministry, right? Whatever it might look like, but there's a little bit more there, right? And this more can be quantified as a deep transformation or a wide transformation, meaning numerical. I have worked in as a solo pastor, an associate pastor, a pastor of discipleship, a site pastor, and now my newest and what I hope will be one of my last ones is the pastor of spiritual formation and discipleship, spiritual formation and groups. And so with this new title, really, I just get to work with a small group, developing our small group ministry, and then really looking at how do we form people as a whole in the church that I serve in, which is the Gathering in St. Louis, Missouri. I've started group ministries, new worship, served a couple of new church starts. And so all of these things kind of filter who I am. But in all of those places, teams have been important. In every single one of there is no church I've been a part of where that didn't matter. And so as I walk into ministry, I hold all of these things you see on the screen together. These are the strands that sort of influence who I am and who I'm becoming as a pastor and as a person, as a Christian, as a person who loves Jesus. In the middle, you see the cross and the flame. That's my United Methodist piece. There's my journalism piece from Mizzou. I'm a coach with coaching for clergy, finishing up a professional coaching certification there. I spent a year or more as a community organizer, and that's really important to note because I believe really what I learned about mobilizing teams, I learned from community organizing. I didn't have a seminary class that taught me how to do that. And so that's important to know. And then those things on the right are all around emotional intelligence and emotional wellness. The Daring Way is through Brene Brown's camp, if you will. I'm a facilitator who can share in her facilitate her research with folks. And then 6 Seconds is an international organization that does emotional intelligence. Their goal, their mission is for 1 billion people to practice EQ. And so it's a big goal, and I'm honored to be a part of it. All right. So you hear about all this, and you would think that I just been jamming out, right, since I've been in ministry, which started like when I was around 19. But the truth is that hasn't been the case. This picture and these words really speak a lot to who I have been as a person who has lived in a place of overwhelm. I talk about overwhelm being my love language, and it being the way that I showed support to everyone else, and the least amount of support to myself. And so one day, just briefly, I had what I call an emotional heart attack. It was a panic attack. And it's when I began to realize that I could no longer go through ministry literally doing everything, that it wasn't just about the doing, that I had to also learn how to feel and how to be. And so I'm a 3 on the Enneagram. I'm all about accomplishing and achieving things. And so this has been a rework in my own life to begin thriving in ministry in a new way, from a place of being, from a place of feeling, and also, yes, a place of doing. So I attribute my ministry success, one, to God, to my support that I receive from family, coaches, and colleagues, and 3, to this host of experiences that I shared on the previous slide that continue to inform my ministry. Here's what I'm noticing as I've been doing this for a while. I think the reasons a lot of us have struggled in ministry is that it's not enough to know something. Implementing is really the name of the game. And so I think we can, we read books and sometimes we become so heady. And I am a thinker. I was going to get a PhD. Like, trust me, I value the mental, acuity that we can all acquire. And to just know is not enough. How is it going to shape and change the sermon you preach? Or how is it going to shape and change the way you lead that board meeting? Like, I'm a practical theologian at the end of the day, right? Like, what does it matter? How will it inform and transform the work of the ministry? And if I think that's where we have to focus our efforts. One size doesn't fit all. If you go to any kind of church growth or leadership workshop, sometimes it feels like, oh, just do what the multi-site church is doing in your 50-member congregation. Like, for real. Like, we know that that is not always helpful or healthy. And so one of the things I want to encourage pastors to do, and I hope you hear my heart on this, is that it is really important for us to work from our strengths and not from our deficits. I think when we start hearing the one size fits all models, that we can start, feeling like that we'll never be that. We'll, perhaps our rural 50, 100 member church may never be a multi-site urban ministry. Like, that's just not going to happen. And so how do we begin to just work from the strengths that we have as pastors, as leaders, and then also from the strengths that we have amongst the people that we get to serve with? And so taking a strengths and a asset based, if you will, approach over and against a deficit, like looking at what we don't have. And then we have been too proud to ask for help from each other as colleagues and from our congregations. And so I think these are some of the reasons we struggle. I want to invite you to share, if you're brave enough, if you want, you can share what's another reason you think, whether it's your reason or not, but that you think we might struggle in ministry these days. What does that look like, you think? I think for me, it really was like my personality of overcompensating and doing too much. So I'll invite you to drop something if you want. Strengths versus deficits for sure. Having to spend so much time on administration, which is not my main strength. Yes. And so being able to find, that perhaps that lay person, or we can talk about other ways, other types of small hires, right? Maybe there's a small project hire or something to that effect, which we could discuss, that can come alongside and support and be on your team. So when we talk about teams, we can be talking about, the Easter egg hunt team that's going to do the big to do. We can also be talking about one person who is going to come alongside you and take a few things off your plate. All right. All of that to me is all team. So, the reasons we struggle to what I think is a better approach. I think the better approach to building teams is holistic. It is holistic, which means that we look at three sets that you need to build a team: a mindset, a heart set, and a skill set. Now, we all pastors in here, so that's my 3-point sermon is about to come. Y'all ready? Bring it on. All right, mindset, heart set, and skill set. Here we go. So, in the mindset, as we begin just thinking about a team, thinking about that one person you need that can make a drastic difference. Who's the one person that can take something off your plate that'll free you up to do something that you really are skilled at, that would just give you a little more time in your week for sermon prep or whatever it might be, right? One person really can make an impact when you have that person that can support you in ministry. I feel like I'm missing a slide. I guess I'm coming up to it. Okay, great. I got excited about it. I'm like, where is that? So what are the helpful ways to be thinking about teams and the roles of people on them? And so that's basically what the mindset is. I think entering into this team conversation, like, really, what are you thinking when you come into this thinking that you need a team? One, why teams in the first place? Well, I'm gonna just go on scripture. Jesus, that's the good Sunday school answer. Why teams? Jesus, Jesus was team centric. From the 12 that he called to the 70 that he commissioned, that he chose and sent. It is central to who he is and how he functioned here on earth. One of the things I love is this, that mobilizing of the 70, and this, this image, and the power of mobilization. You alone cannot, Jesus alone didn't, it's not just because of Jesus alone that the ministry exists today and that we're in this vocation. It's because of those other strands that came out, those other branches, that network, those other people who were mobilized to share, and went forth and did so. And so this team approach, is powerful, and I believe it's a faithful response, to what it means to be like Jesus. And so I think what it means to be like Jesus is to build teams. Here are some of the benefits of teams. One, as we've already looked at, is scriptural, and then two, um, this place around imagination leading to innovation. I won't go more into that today just for the sake of time, but there's something about creating room and space, for imagination. Teams are primed for spiritual formation. Teams are primed for spiritual formation. So even if you're looking at the people that God has blessed you with, those people that you see on Sunday morning where you're preaching your message or leading the area of ministry, whatever that looks like for you, and you might be thinking, these are some disciple-y kind of folks. They still got a little fish smell on them. You think about Peter and James, like they was disciple-y. They wasn't, Jesus-y all when they got called. These folks still a little disciple-y. They got rough edges. And this time of spiritual formation is really the place and the time where you get to, be in relationship with folks, be in one-on-one or one-on group relationship, helping them to read and discuss scripture, helping them to see where God is already at work in their life, like calling it out, naming it, and then being able to really celebrate when they can see and articulate where God has been forming and transforming them. The reality is, friends, that our folks don't just come already made. And I think that's why we may get a little frustrated with the team building process, because it's like they're not, maybe everyone's not going to just be ready to step in and do what it do. Okay, it's going to take some formation, and it's our privilege, I believe, to walk with people in that way. uh I feel like that's really the gospel at work, right? We're seeing an individual's life continue to be shaped and formed like Jesus, and as they do that, they are serving and learning and growing alongside you. So I'm glad, Tracy. Thank you. I'm glad it's helpful. All right. So these benefits of it's scriptural, imagination leads to innovation, teams are primed for spiritual formation, and then prevent clergy and laity burnout. We can spend a whole workshop on that. I have some other even resources if that's something you're interested in. I can gift you some of the other learnings and teachings I've done around, 5 things to do when you find yourself, getting close to what I talk about it this way: when the a full cup requires a steady hand, right? You have so much in a cup and you're not really, you unfortunately starting to spill some stuff. That's a dangerous place to be when we're in ministry. And so preventing clergy and laity burnout, I have some resources for you. If you want those, just reach out to me. I'll be sure you get them. But that's another reason, why teaming and equipping is important. I do want you to see, though, the order of these. I think it's important to note. I think it's scriptural, and then number 2 would be teams are primed for spiritual formation. 3, innovation leads to innovation, and then 4, prevent clergy and laity burnout. The wrong reason to build team is to just say, "Well, I'm tired and I need some help." That's a little incarnational, little carnal, and selfish. That's not why we do it. And I think if we do it for that reason, the motivation, I believe, matters, right? So if we can get really clear that this is who Jesus was. Jesus was a collaborator more than I think we care to know and or articulate and see in scripture. And he shared power. When he sent those 70 out, he didn't just say, "Go do some stuff." He equipped them. He gave them power to go do things that he did. That's where it's at. So starting with that as a core, and then from there continuing to grow those people, right? That's where the spiritual formation and all go. I'm gonna move on because y'all know, you can already tell, like, that place around spiritual formation I'm really passionate about. And so I think it's important, and it's one of those, it's one of the things that we can leave off in ministry if we're not careful. All right. So first it was the mindset. That's one of the first things you need, one of the three sets. The second set is the heart set. And in the heart set, you're going to be looking inward, looking at the who-ness. Who am I and who else can help? So this who-ness is that place where we can begin to look at, for example, our strengths, reflecting on what we're bringing to the table. But I think the who-ness is also what comes up, like what who you are when we begin talking about teams and collaboration and sharing power. That stuff that get at the heart of who some of us are, like what's going on the inside of us. So who you be inside and then out matters. So this should say heart set, but it really is heart work that we do. And so a lot of times in workshops with me, people get introduced, if they haven't already, to the feelings wheel. And so I want to give you an opportunity to practice this right now. As we talk about shared power, we talk about spiritual formation, spending time with people, talk about empowerment, all of those things. What's one feeling that you experience as you even heard those things, as you begin thinking about, as you begin preparing to build out and or sustain your team? And so the feelings wheel here helps you to do that. All right. So in the middle are the core emotions, if you will. And then from them grow these additional ones all the way to the lighter colored ones on the outside. And so the question is, what comes up for you? Now you might be like, Charity, there's a lot of words on the screen, and it is. You can also say, you can also kind of use the identifier around what color is speaking to you right in this moment, like what color is speaking to you as you think about the feeling, or as you feel the feeling. So I would love to just if you would drop if you would drop in the chat your the feeling or even the color. Joy jumped out to me. Great. Awesome. Okay. The yellow. And so when you feel joy, the next question then is, when you feel joy, peaceful, great. When you feel joy, when you feel peace, what is an action or a pattern that you do when you feel that way? Like, what do you do when you feel joy? And then what do you do when you feel peace? What do you say? Is there an action? Joy at the idea of people helping. Great. Yeah, absolutely. Knowing that it is, that there are so many benefits for them, ways that they'll grow closer to God, ways they'll grow closer to you. I mean, I think the benefits um, yeah, multiplicitous, right? So this joy. So Tracy, when you think about starting to figure out who to ask and what to ask, is it still joy? Go ahead, you can unmute.
Good, because that was going to be a long text.
Okay, go for it. I got you. Go for it.
So initially, it is joy. Like as we were talking, I thought about two people I've already been talking to about helping with some of the things that I'm not great at, that take too much energy for me to do, and I get excited about that, but that energy then becomes stress somewhere in there. It turns from joy to stress, and I'm not sure what. I haven't really thought through that process, but I've noticed it.
Yeah.
It's excitement and yeah, and they'll say yeah, but then the actual doing,
Hmm.
I end up backing up because they're not doing something. Like, I thought you were going to do this, so there's something in my communication in the process that takes me from joy to stress.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Love it. Well said. Well said. I was looking on our list here to see where stress is, or a similar emotion. Um, I'm thinking it's gonna probably be somewhere in the scared or
Yeah.
even
Mhm.
mad space in here. So maybe look at some of those words so we can name that word, whatever that other with the stress. Is it be able to look at that and see what's is there another emotion word that you will use. So when
Mhm.
you get to that time of stress, then what do? You take it back over? Do you shut down? Like what does that look like?
Yeah.
I take it.
Overwhelmed is pretty close to the joyful. It's kind of right there next to that scary. And I feel like overwhelmed could be a word for what you're describing too. Like, I thought I was going to lean on my team to do this, and now I'm back to feeling overwhelmed. So, how did I get here from being excited?
Yes.
Woo.
Yes, that's a good yes.
Mhm.
I don't even need to say more, just yes.
Yeah. So what kind of actions show up for you when you're overwhelmed?
I started losing track of stuff because I got too much on my plate. The
Mhm.
very things I was trying to move off my plate, and now I'm excited about this other project, right? Or I'm just making something up, this thing that I can spend my good energy and my strengths on. When so I've started this, but now this thing I thought was off my plate is back on. So now I have two things.
Mhm.
And that's where the overwhelm comes. Well, I wouldn't have started this if I had known I was still going to have to do this. Now I got seven things to do,
Right.
and I can't. That's where the overwhelm comes. That's when I haven't hit burnout yet, but I feel like if I don't get this under control,
Mhm.
if we don't figure out how to really make these things work, I'm gonna
Mhm.
keep being in this cycle of now I'm doing 12 things.
Yep. Yep. Love it. No, love
Mhm.
that you're able to articulate that in that way. So that is super helpful. We're going to talk about a couple of doing things in the next in the skill set. Um, and I think the thing, which is why the sort of one size doesn't fit all for us to be mindful of, is that all those emotions are at play when we're doing this stuff. So we have to begin to say, okay, how do I navigate the feeling of overwhelm? How do I navigate the feeling of insecure or anxious? When I shared with some people, that was mine, insecure, anxious, because I've been a young person in ministry for a long time, and so I was always leading people older than me, and so I was always trying to prove myself to them in some way, shape, form, or fashion, and so the way I showed up was in that way, and so it took some time to begin um, to navigate feelings of insecurity and anxiety, right? How do I navigate those? And there are lots of ways to do that. We can talk through a person's emotional intelligence to say, what options do you have here? That's always a great question. What are your options? Because when we feel overwhelmed, we feel like we don't have any options. We feel like the world just got really small in the sense, and it's all on my plate. Like so what are my options? Begin to ask questions like, if I do this, then what? And so just kind of being able to step back and really live into the if this, then that. What are all the options that I can just put on the table? I don't have to choose anything just yet, but just knowing I have options opens it up for you, right? Instead of feeling like there ain't no choices here, I just got to do the thing. And so even taking a moment to say, okay, I have 5 minutes. What are all my options right now? Right. So being able to navigate an emotion is critical because it's being played out in our work all the time, under the surface. But what we see are the results. And what you see then is my plate just is fuller than it was. And yet there's some other pieces happening. Anything else you want to say, Tracy, before I move?
That's good.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the skill set. I'm gonna add something in the skill set based on what you shared just now, Tracy. So in the skill set, the third set that you need, mindset, heart set, and now skill set. Here's what people I believe need when you're inviting them to serve with you in whatever capacity. Serve Christ through the church, serve Christ alongside you, however you want to talk about that. Um, People need some kind of description of the work you want them to do. Now, I think this skill set place is the place where we lean in heavily sometimes. Like some people be like, well, I don't have a whole one pager. And, we get frantic if we don't have a full on job description. Now, if you doing a straight up hire, for sure, you need to have your ducks in a row, be legit. Um, and I would say if it's a volunteer in an unpaid position who's gonna do something for you, I think it's okay to have a 3 to 5 sentence description of the work that you want them to do. So they clear and you clear on what it's gonna look like. So not just what you want them to do, but I think it's important for you to say what they can expect of you. I remember early on in ministry, look, I'm one of these people, I'm the whole opposite of a micromanager. Like, I'm like, you good? Peace. Like, I don't have to see you again. Just go do the thing, right? Like, but people need to check in. And so this is where I'm coming back to you, Tracy. I think, having it does, these things don't may not always get completely off our plate, quote unquote, right?
Right.
But there is this sort of like a quarter, instead of it being a one, it's a quarter. That's in the quarter is the check-in, right? It's the 30-minute check-in, where they get added to your list that you call every other week, for 30 minutes, and you tell them, hey, I got 30 minutes, just checking in on that. How's that going?
Right.
Right. And so then that way you don't have to wonder what's happening. You don't have to feel like it ain't happening and then do it. And then if it's redirection needed, you can cut it off at you can do that in that 30-minute, touch base. And so all of the tasks can come off of your plate, but the check-in replaces the task.
Oh, okay.
The person that's joining us, audience view, you have any things you want to add or questions you might have as we I'm just want to make sure, I know Tracy's getting some support here. Is there anything specifically I can help you with as we're talking this through as well? Y'all are getting some one-on-one support today. You can feel free to either say no in the chat or you can unmute and talk if you want. Go ahead. I lost my little doohickey. Okay. All right. Just know I'm here for you if you need anything. All right. So the description of what they're going to do, what they can expect from you. And one of those things is that you're going to check in on them, that you're not going to just send them out there, willy nilly. Like, you are still supporting them and you're still going to be with them. And that gives people a sense of comfort. Like, okay, whew, cause people trust, they want to do well. They don't want to let anybody down ever, they don't want to let your pastor down. But what can they expect from you is like, hey, I am still gonna be alongside you with this. It's not just you have to run with it and I'm gonna ghost you. You know what I'm saying? So, and then track using Google Sheets and Excel. Hey, Kevin. Good to see you there, friend. I can't see my chat anymore, Melinda. So, Kevin, if you wanted to unmute and say anything before I continue on, I'm happy to give you some space if you need or desire.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were talking to me. I didn't realize my name was audience view for whatever reason.
It's all good, friend.
You're talking to somebody. I'm not sure who.
Love it. Go ahead.
No, I just recently started at a church where the previous pastor started doing the simplified leadership structure, but in Teams model, but it just hasn't been working well for anybody. Lack of communication, there's about 40 teams for a church of 30 people. Usually more work groups than ministry planning teams, really.
Yeah.
But and everybody's upset that nobody's getting communicated with and cared for, and I can't handle 40 direct reports, so I'm trying to figure out a better model of doing things. That's all.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I know a little bit about that simplified structure. I know Kay Kotan teaches that. I've been in a few congregations where she's led us in that as well. And if I think if you're in the beginning parts of that, it feels a little messy, and it feels this is what I recall, it felt a little messy. And it gosh, the emotions around that, right? Like, there were all these people who were in the know of everything that was happening, and then it becomes this small group, and then there's the trust or lack of trust about not knowing. And so the communication strands that need to be maybe recreated, the power of that board and how they talk back to the other people. But I hear you, ministry teams, like actually doing planning and implementing and executing, right? The pie, planning, implementing, executing ministry sometimes doesn't happen where people are just, like you said, kind of work teams.
Mhm.
So yeah, redefining what it means to be on a team in a simplified structure. It takes it's a mind, you can imagine, right? That mindset, heart set, all that stuff is at play here. They like, "Wah!" Go ahead. What else you thinking?
No, that's mostly it. And so it was only partially implemented. And so there's a number of teams that I need to kind of create. And so
Mhm.
I have a hard time figuring out who to ask and how to ask more than anything else. I always assume everybody's going to say no. So I usually don't ask, but that's an entirely different issue.
Well, that's a heart issue, right? So that goes to like the optimism, right? When we start there, that's an emotional intelligence where it's like, oh, the expectation of the no, right? And then how to manage a no when we get it, and not to take it personally, and all that. So these are the things that I think really, when I talk about holistic, I think are important for us to work through. So I think you're spot on naming that, Kevin. So thank you for saying it. You talked about who to ask and how to ask. I'm going to show you all briefly, and we're going to take about 10 more minutes. I got started a little late, so if you all can stay for that much longer, um, we'll wrap up here. So here's an example of literally, like I just wrote this 2 days ago, I think, an invitation to some folks to serve on a new team that I'm putting together. Now, I don't typically just send an email and ask people to serve on a team. These are people I've worked with in different capacities already, and so I was asking them to do this one thing with me. But if you look at this example, this is a real email. If you look down here, you'll see, well, I'm asking you to help design and implement a core group celebration. I gave them a little bit of information that I know, the purpose of it based on what I think at this point. And then down here, I put, lastly, this is a short-term ask. After the event debrief, we will discuss ongoing ways to serve as you see fit. Just wanted you to know I'm not locking you in for the entire year. Right. So people know, like, I'm not, this isn't a done deal. Here's something I have been really good at. And there are several people who would tell you this, even as recently as like last year. I have a way of like putting I have a way of I don't even want to say putting people on a team. I have a way of inviting people to be on a team without them even knowing they've been invited to be on a team. And so they like, oh, this a team meeting. I'm like, oh yeah, you've been working on this, and this. He's like, you on this team. And so I've had to get a little better at that. Like they've been okay. They're like, well, I'm happy to be here. I just didn't know. And so I've had to get really even more clear, right? Like, because sometimes I think people just have to do the thing, like what you're doing. That's what I need you to do. And sometimes people can be hesitant, thinking, oh, I can't do that thing. But once I already have them doing the thing, as far as I'm concerned, you're on the team. So I try to, maybe that's a back door that I use to kind of cut out the uh, what is the word I want to, the objections, right? And so knowing the objections is another thing that we could walk through if we looked at mindset as well. And so what are some of the objections you already are anticipating, Kevin? And then, right, I used to do this too. I would have the objections on one side, what people might say, and then on the right side, I would write what my response can be, and I just kind of practice those. So when someone would say, well, I can't, blah blah blah, or it's going to be this, and I've thought through those, and I can offer those up. That's helped me to be more prepared, and prepare to get whatever potential rejection, which sometimes can turn into a positive. So from this invitation that I have here on the screen, I have received 2 yeses, 1 praying about it, and two that I'm waiting on. And I think they have responded. I just don't know what they've said yet. So I need to just check it. So something just to note, I wanted you all to have an actual idea. All right, we're moving through to the close so I can honor your time today. So now you know that the best ministry approach, I think the best approach to ministry itself. Specifically today, we're talking about teams, but the best approach to ministry itself. I would say specifically, I won't say specifically, but if we think about, I don't know if Kevin, it sounds like you might be United Methodist as well, right? Like we have a Wesleyan theology that speaks to the head, heart, and the hands, not just Methodist, but others as well. And so I've kind of blown that up a little bit, kept teasing it out, right? Head, heart, hands. It's the thinking, it's the feeling, it's the doing, it's the mindset, heart set, and skill set that we talked about today. And then it's the belief, the courage, and the action. And so there are sure many other, trio words we could use. But these three sets are so important to ministry within ourselves, and then how we help other people identify the sets within themselves as well. All right, so here you go. What to do now with what you've heard. I hope that you have something you can hold on to from today. No matter what all of your next steps are. But here are three, and I'm just giving you three from the mindset, heart set, and the skill set. Identify which benefits of teams speak to you the most. And we talked about those in the mindset area. What are some of those benefits that speak to you the most? It could be the ones I listed. It could be other ones that you want that resonate with you. And then what are the benefits of team that you think may speak most to a potential team member? So maybe you have, Sister Blue, and you know that Sister Blue, values legacy, and she values, being here for a long time. And so you can talk to her about how teams helps legacy happen, right? Or whatever it might be. So think about the person that you might be wanting to speak to and help them to see the benefit of them being on the team and what they connected to what they value. So that's sort of my community organizing space. They talk about it as sort of self-interest, and I think sometimes we talk about self-interest in a negative way. But there is something that is important to folks. And so learn in the coffee with them what is important to them. What piece of the gospel really speaks to them, right? And be able to share how that can connect to this role and what you might be asking them to do. Kevin, I'm just thinking as we're here for a moment, I'm just thinking about, I know you're saying not even being sure who to ask. I think that may be one of your first asks, right? Is it the lay leader if you're in the UMC? Who are some people that can come alongside you to be in like thinking with you, praying with you, working through the heart set, mindset, and skill set, right, with you, so you can begin even identifying the people. If you're unsure, it sounds like your first team might be this team that helps you to think about the bigger piece of teams. So explore two other feelings and patterns that come up for you in this work around the heart set. So we talked about overwhelm. We talked about fear of rejection, fear of getting no's, unsure, uncertain, insecure. And then what patterns, like what do you do when you feel those things? Because that is at play. Friends, we can be the bottleneck to our ministry, right? We can stop stuff. We can not allow things to flow fully when we're not clear about how feelings and patterns are functioning in our everyday work and ministry. So it's really important to start getting clear on those. And then last, in the skill set, write a short 3 to 5 sentence or bullet point role description for your new member. Keep it simple. Tracy, you talked about administration. So, in what way? What piece of administration, right? Because administration is a whole lot of stuff. Is it the bulletin? Is it, I see your face. I don't even know, I'm just throwing stuff out. Go ahead. You mute, okay.
It actually isn't the bulletin. Writing the bulletin is part of my sermon process.
Mhm.
So putting that together, I don't mind doing. I don't want to be the one to print it. So I'd like to get that off my plate. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But the other administrative stuff is like weekly announcements email. There's just a lot that I've been doing since I was a church secretary that I'm still doing because I serve a small church with no administrator.
Yeah.
And so that's frustrating
Sure.
that those things that I feel called to do, I can't spend as much time on them because I'm doing the secretarial work. And so finding somebody to do that would be huge, to find somebody to take, or somebodies
Mhm.
to take on that stuff would be awesome.
Yeah. I think the same kind of offer up around with Kevin about who can be thinking with you about that. And here's
Mhm.
the other thing, friends, when you have that person that you're going to ask, you can, and it's whatever happens in that conversation, whether they say yes to the thing or no to the thing. I think always a good question to ask is, who else you think I should be talking to?
That's
Because the people know the people, and so like, who else do you think I should be talking to? And then when you get real good at this, and when some of your lay people are um, more, when I say invested or vested, like they can become the people where you can say, and when you ask who else do you think this would be for whom this would be a good fit, or who else you think whatever, you can say, will you ask them for me? Will you ask? And you can go ahead, Tracy.
Here's what I've run into, because I do tend to do that, but here's what I'm running into is people being suggested who have not been at church. So the suggestion is the hope that, well, if you ask him to do that, then he'll come back to church. And it doesn't happen. It doesn't work.
That
The
way,
invitation back is not come do a thing
right?
and then that'll get you back in church. So I'm trying to break that, but that's kind of the situation I'm in at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like there's like that teaching around, like that's sort of passive aggressive. Like what we
Yeah,
really want is this. We want you, but what we
right,
need is to do this.
right.
I think probably they don't think of it as that. It's probably not malicious, They think,
No,
oh, kill two birds with one stone, like because
yeah.
they're good at this. So maybe
Mhm.
this would be a way to get them back.
Yeah,
I think
it's
the
very good
conversation.
intentions for
Mhm.
sure. It's good intentions, not bad intentions at all. But
Yeah.
it doesn't work, and I
Right.
don't. I don't think the way it's received is the way it's intended. Like,
Yeah.
oh, so you want me to come run the video?
Right. Right. Yeah, that's a whole other strategy, right? If we're talking about
Yeah.
folks who haven't been there, it's just cultivating that
Mhm.
relationship in general, right?
Right.
Um, and there are no asks, because you got to have relational capital to make asks, right? So I'm with you. So I think maybe helping this team of people who could be helping asking on your behalf, like let's rethink mindset. What are the purpose of doing these teams? What's the purpose of this particular thing that we're trying to accomplish? The role of it, and it's not just so that we're not tired. It is, like I said, it's not self-preservation. We continue to kind of elevate and push them to a holier understanding of it. And so, yeah, good work, man. Hard work though, y'all. Right? I hope that you don't hear that this is like, oh, just do this and everything will be fine. This is a long game. Some of my next notes talk about that. So where do we go from here? Listen, you can take everything we have talked about for the last 45 minutes and start, working this action plan and start getting your people in place and do what you can do, like make it happen. And there are some people who can totally do that. But we're all in different places, and so you might have what you already need and you're ready to go. But for some of you, might feel like it would be helpful, and that you might be able to go further if you had some support. And so that's what I want to share with you today: what it would look like to have a little bit more support and to shorten the learning curve. To have someone to walk alongside you, have me to walk alongside you to get that first group, that first team together, or your first member. So here's the opportunity for you: is something called this program called Build Your Team from Scratch for solo pastors. There are 7 components that you get to receive with me being your primary support. There are 4 laser coaching sessions. You get touch bases with me via email. I have a coach, friends, and this is my favorite part is number 2. Like I love the coaching session, that's helpful, but it's that in between time when things pop up, or and I just reach out and say, hey, I did that and then this happened and I'm excited, or this happened and I'm not really sure what to do right now. And so just being able to have that little touch base communication is a bridge to the next time that I get to, have a full on discussion with her. And then we've talked about the heart set quite a bit today, right? So this emotional intelligence place, this is going to help you to identify there are 8 competencies in EQ, from know yourself. The big categories are know yourself, choose yourself, give yourself. And we worked on one of these today, which was the know yourself. What's the feeling you have and what's the pattern? And so that really encompasses that. And then choose yourself, you get to start asking questions like, what are my options? How do I apply consequential thinking? If I do this, then what will happen? And so we'll get to see where you are right now. We'll get to use that 20-page report to say, how do we build out your teams based on your strengths, or what are some areas that are gonna maybe potential obstacles, and let's just shore them up right now. Here's some things we can know that you're gonna struggle when this happens, but here's the action we're gonna take when that happens, right? So I'll go over a debrief with you in a deep dive debrief, and we'll be looking at the debrief through the lens of team building. Okay. So that's going to help you to apply what that report says directly to your team building skill set. Again, practical theology, right? We're not going to just look at a report and just willy-nilly. We're going to make an application to it. And then some of you are already in the Facebook group. Hey, in the regular Pastors Doing a New Thing Facebook group. But in this exclusive Facebook group, for example, if Kevin and Tracy both join this program, you all would be in a Facebook group together, and then we can continue to like collaborate. People can keep sharing how things are going. And then access to the the quarterly EQ cafes, which are free, will be free to you. Learning opportunities to look at emotional intelligence with people literally from all over the world. They're really, really cool. In addition to this, I have these bonuses. So I kept thinking, what do you actually need? And I'm gonna do these from the right to the left. You need actual emails and tracking documents to invite people to the team. So I'll share with you things that I have used, much like the email you had today. Share those things so you can begin using them, pulling out, so you don't have to start from scratch, pulling out content and putting it together the way it would be helpful. There's a mini course here that you have with some videos. They just kind of help that you can learn even more about EQ on your own by listening to a few videos that I've curated for you. And then I've talked about emotional intelligence, and you see those three circles, that Venn diagram. This is, it gets even, I would say, even better in that when you have the Venn diagram, there's a sweet spot in the middle. And so in that EQ download workshop, I talk about what's in the middle. And it's important for you to know that as we do this work. So if you choose to work with me and we go on this journey together to get your teams in place, and you make an early decision by Monday to do that, you're going to get a 1-hour virtual workshop for your team with me in 2023. I'll say early 2023, so you can get started off to in a good way. And so we will talk about what that can look like for your team, but basically you get me coming to hang out with you and your team virtually. It's something I'm really good at, and people like today leave with some good content. So the regular investment for this is $870, but you all are in the early decision times and you're on the call. So you all will get those 3 bonuses in the green circles, plus me being able to come and host your team for $800. And all the coaching sessions and all that. You can do a pay in full, or you can do a 3-pay option. So with the 3-pay option, I really wanted to make this easy for pastors because I know just how our worlds are. With the 3-pay option, you would pay $200 to essentially start and say that I'm in, which will get you all those bonuses I've named. You'll do another $200 in December, and then you can pay the remaining in January. And so we would start in this year where I would have you do your assessment, and we can likely get through your debrief here at the end of the year. And then we can get started with all of your coaching at the front part of the year. So I know we're coming up on Advent and all the things, and so I don't want to add a whole other thing, but if we just do the base work at the end of this year and then hit the ground running in the new year, that's what I'd like to do for you. So here is where you can go, this tiny URL. Melinda, if you're able, can you type that into the chat? This tiny URL will Teams from Scratch will take you to a page that allows you to see all of what I've shared with you today as far as the program and get signed up. So I'll take any questions that you all have about content that I shared today or about this opportunity to work together before we jump on. Any questions? thoughts? What you taking away today? What's one thing you're gonna hold on to? I would love to hear kind of what really landed home for you today. Kevin or Tracy? Go ahead.
One small thing, I think it was on a slide or something you said early on that just resonated was perfection is your enemy, progress is your friend.
Mhm.
I can be a bit perfectionist. I don't know if you know that about me. But I do forget that we are making progress and that is good. And so to celebrate that along the way, yeah, that was good for me to hear.
Great, great.
Good.
What about you, Kevin? Anything you're holding on to?
I'm mostly just processing right now. I don't have. I'm not sure.
Sure, no worries. Nice to meet you. I'm glad you were here today.
Me too. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. So, friends, thank y'all for signing up. We'll follow up, Melinda and I, and we'll give you this link again in that email so you'll be able to go and check things out. I'm here, I'm around. You can DM me through Facebook or through the pastors group, however, we're connected. And yeah, whatever questions you have or things you want to talk further through, Kevin, happy to learn more about your context and be able to yeah, listen and see what that all is looking like for you. If there's any specific ways that I can be of support, I am here for you all.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, friends, thank y'all for getting a chance to do what I love, which is being, committed to other colleagues in this way. And I definitely do feel like it is, this sort of covenant as pastors in ministry to not just go and do well for myself or for what have you, but for us to be together and to learn from each other. And so it's my pleasure to be here, and y'all have a good weekend.
You guys have a good weekend.
Thanks so much. See y'all.
Thanks for your time, Charity. That was really good.
All right. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Be well.